Hey, what is up, Frig fam? Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about 5 fragrances that are very popular but are still impressing me. So what do I mean by that? Well, of course, once you get used to a fragrance, maybe it still smells good to you, but maybe it just doesn't like catch your attention as much as it used to, you know? It's not as easy to smell it and be like, wow, this is an absolutely amazing smelling fragrance because you've gotten so used to it. Well, these are 5 that are very popular and they had that effect on me, of course, when I first smelled them, but even to this day, when I still like try them, they take me back to like that first time I smelled them and how good they actually were. So if you guys want to find out which fragrances I've chosen, then please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. Alright guys, welcome back from the intro, and like I already said, this is going to be 5 very popular fragrances that still impress me to this day. Additionally, before we get into the list, let me know like after you've watched the video if you guys really enjoyed this one, and if so, I can do a part 2 to this kind of where I talk about 5 popular fragrances that are still impressing my fiance, because there's quite a few that she's gotten used to and maybe, you know, she just doesn't like announce that she likes it as much, but there's still some that really catch her attention. So definitely let me know if you want to see that version of this list as well, and I can do it. But let's hop into the video with the first fragrance. Okay, so starting the video off with the first fragrance. Now personally, this is one of my absolute favorites from this house. I will say that compared to the next 4 fragrances, so the other fragrances on this list, this one is not quite as popular as those. Although it is still on here for a reason, it is still quite popular, especially among the people that collect fragrances from this house. You see this in tons of people's collections, and for good reason. It smells amazing, very unique, good performance overall, and pretty affordable relative to the prices that this house usually goes for. This is a very expensive niche house. This is one of their just best price proposition fragrances. So we are talking about this one from the house of Oud Wood, and this is a Midsommar Dream. Man, like even right now when I just smelled it, this stuff is still impressing me. It is such a good scent, so unique. This is almost a modern CMRRA. So it's woody, citrusy, mossy. Those are your components of a CMRRA, and they generally smell pretty old school and usually kind of masculine as well. This one I find unisex, but also very modern and even a little bit alluring, which usually those are not traits of a CMRRA fragrance, but this one has it. The reason this one is coming across nice and sweet and kind of sensual is because this features elemi and benzoin. At least to my nose, usually fragrances that contain benzoin kind of give me that root beer Coca-Cola vibe. This one, it kind of is featuring that, but you're also getting that elemi aspect as well, which elemi usually is balsamic and almost rooty smelling in a way. So it's a beautiful kind of tree resin combination here, again with those citruses, those woody notes, and then the mosses. You also get some spices in here like cardamom, so a little bit sweet, spicy, a little bit fresh, seductive. There is a floral aspect to this fragrance as well. It does have some rose in it actually. So almost what this one is like to my nose is like a walk through the woods during the springtime. So it's a little bit warm out, it's a nice clear day, but it's not blistering hot. You're kind of getting the smell of the trees around you, the plants, you know, the flowers and stuff like that. And that sweetness kind of like represents the warmth. So just a very transportive fragrance. Again, very unique, super impressive. Every time I smell this stuff, it is just blowing me away. I cannot imagine not owning a bottle of this. So again, the first fragrance that was here on this list, an absolute staple in my opinion if you're gonna own fragrances from this house, that is Oud Wood, a Midsommar Dream. Okay, so up next we have one of the most versatile fragrances that I have ever tried, hands down. Of my 300 plus bottle fragrance collection, I would say this is in the top 5 most versatile scents. You can wear this anytime, anywhere. Name a scenario, this will like work in that scenario every time. There's nothing that this cannot do. It's a Swiss Army knife of a fragrance, and it smells fantastic to go on top of that. So we are talking about this one from the house of Chanel. This is Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme, which, you know, I don't really find myself wearing this one much anymore, although I really like it a lot. It's just that I have all this other stuff. It's really hard to get around and wear stuff that you enjoy repeatedly because you're always trying to dabble in new fragrances, try stuff out. This is one though that I would probably keep if I had to narrow down my fragrance collection to like 40 bottles or less. I think this would totally make it within that like top 40, which I know that's still a lot of fragrances, but when you have 300 plus and you have to, you know, whittle it down to that, it's really hard to do. I like this stuff enough though because again, it's very versatile, but it's very appealing at the same time. It is fresh, but it is seductive at the same time with a little bit of kind of a depth to it. There's mandarin orange in here, mint, tonka bean, and then musk as some of your dominant notes, although there's a lot more to it than that. This features those aldehydes that you see in a lot of Chanel fragrances, and it's just kind of fresh again from the mandarin orange, kind of sweet though. It's got a little bit of kind of this green spiciness to it from the mint, but also very creamy, sweet, and seductive, even a little bit powdery from the tonka bean. The musk and those aldehydes again bring kind of that clean nature to this fragrance. In general, it is just a super just versatile and appealing fragrance. Again, I could not think of a single scenario where this fragrance would not work. You can wear this to the gym, you can wear this to a super formal dressed up event, you can wear this kicking it around the house, you can do whatever with this, you can wear this even out to the club and stuff like that. This will work in every situation, and it still is impressing me to this day. Love this stuff a lot. Okay, so the next fragrance we're gonna be talking about needs no introduction. This is the most popular niche fragrance of all time. It's the one that got a lot of people into niche perfumery, allowed them to kind of get that side of it, the complexity, but the uniqueness and everything. This one has all of that and the appeal at the same time. Maybe it's not as unique, however, as it used to be, but that's because this thing has been cloned repeatedly and repeatedly. When this one came out, it was very unique, had not been done before, and to this day, this is still impressing me. So we are talking about this one from the house of Creed, and this is Aventis. I should say the Aventis, you know, the big boy. The king of fragrance, you know, that's what a lot of people call it. This at one point was my favorite fragrance. It arguably still is, although I really don't reach for this thing as often as I used to now. There's just, again, other stuff that I want to reach for more and more. But just because I'm not wearing it as much doesn't mean that it is impressing me any less. Like I said, this stuff is still blowing me away to this day. When I smell it, it just reminds me of that first time when I tried it and how good this is. A beautiful, musky, woody, fruity fragrance for men. This is actually classified as a fruity chypre, so similar to a Midsommar Dream, the fragrance we talked about earlier. This one is also a chypre, but similarly to that one, this does not go in an old school direction. This smells extremely modern and honestly pretty timeless at this point. You know, it's just that kind of fragrance where it's just gonna never really smell like out of date or like it's, you know, out of place or anything like that. This one is pretty versatile as well. I would say not quite as much so as Chanel Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme, but it's up there. A very put together fragrance. I don't even need to tell you guys anything more about it because you already know about this one. You know how good this is. So again, the third fragrance on this list, one that is again still impressing me to this day, regardless of how much it gets talked about and how many other clones and stuff there are of it. That was Creed Aventis. Okay, so the next fragrance here at the number 2 spot is one that this was actually the first fragrance that I tried from the house. So I do remember still how it went down. I went to Nordstrom to the perfume counter and tried a bunch of different things to see what I liked, you know, and this is one that just like took me by surprise. I held on to that little tester strip that I sprayed at Nordstrom, took it home with me, and I was smelling it for like the next day, and I immediately knew I needed a bottle. This stuff hooked me from the beginning, and to this day, while even though it's not my favorite fragrance from this house at this point, it still impresses me, still takes me back to that moment when I first tried it. I think this is a fantastic fragrance and deserves all of the praise and hype that it gets. So we are talking about this one from the house of Tom Ford, and this is Oud Wood. So I will say that I think this is kind of a misnomer, Oud Wood. I really don't find this fragrance that oudy. It is dark and woody, which oud comes across like that sometimes, but that's basically all you're getting from it as far as the oud goes. To me, this is more of just kind of a woody concoction with some spiciness and sweet notes. So you get oud in here apparently, like I said, you know, there's Brazilian wood in here. You get some sandalwood as well. I think there's maybe some cedar and some other woody notes as well, but you do get cardamom in here and vanilla as well, which you can definitely pick those up. The cardamom here is sweet, kind of seductive, but it's also very fresh at the same time. This is a very fresh, spicy fragrance. The vanilla in here, not super creamy or dense. Sure, it adds a little bit of sweetness, but that's about it. This is a very fresh, spicy, seductive, woody fragrance. It's very unique. You know, usually when you see stuff like spices and woods, it's gonna come across very dense and intense. This one actually has a surprising freshness to it, which I think makes it decently versatile. I think this is perfect for kind of a dressier occasion. Maybe not dressed up to the max, like a 3-piece suit, but if you're gonna wear like a regular suit and tie, or like even going business casual, I think this is a very fitting fragrance, but I think you can pull this off in many more scenarios than that. It's pretty versatile. And again, this stuff, every time I smell it, it just takes me back to that first time I tried it and how good I thought it was. And to this day, I still think it is that good. So again, the second to last fragrance here on this list from the house of Tom Ford, that was Oud Wood. Okay, so we are on to the last fragrance now, and this is a very popular line of fragrances. The one we're talking about here in this video was actually my first experience with the line. This was the first fragrance that I tried from them, and this is arguably the most popular from that particular line. Some of them have kind of been discontinued or reformulated at this point, but when these were all up and going, they were very popular and they are absolutely amazing, very unique fragrances. So we are talking about this one from the house of Dior, and this is Dior Homme Intense, which I did a list video recently ranking Dior's, all the Dior fragrances I have. This one kind of made it towards the middle top section of the list for me. So it's not my absolute favorite, but I still really like it a lot. This is still basically like a 9 out of 10 for me. All the fragrances I own from Dior I absolutely love. This is just not my absolute favorite, but it still impresses me, and even every time I still wear it to this day, I still think back to when I first tried it and how good I thought this DNA was and how unique it was. I had never smelled anything like it, so when I still try it to this day, that's where my mind goes. If you guys have not had the opportunity to try this fragrance, you definitely need to. I'm pretty sure that it's been repackaged, but I don't think it's been reformulated. The newer bottles, I'm pretty sure it's the same formulation of this one. I know the original Dior Homme has been reformulated, so that one is a different fragrance. I've heard this one is the same. So if you guys can get a sample of this for a good price, or if you've got like find a partial for a really good price, for example, definitely go for it. This is an iconic DNA and everybody needs to try this at least once. So again, the last fragrance here on this list, one that is still blowing me away to this day and very popular for good reason, that was Dior Homme Intense. Well, there you guys go. That was 5 very popular fragrances that are still impressing me to this day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just let me know your thoughts, as well as some new video ideas or topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you've not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.